So that apprenticeship program, like we discussed, is 4 years in the field, 4 years in the classroom. Then you pass this journeyman exam. At Synergy Electric, the whole entire time, every 6 months, you're getting a raise along the way. Once you pass your journeyman test, you get a raise. The reason it's important to get that journeyman card is then that allows you to legally work on your own on the job site.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a 4th year apprentice, you might be a 4th year that's got 10 years of experience and be completely capable of wiring a house from top to bottom all by yourself and no more than a journeyman that's next to you. But without that journeyman card, that's the pass to be able to work by yourself and run a crew. So that's the next step in progression towards leadership is, hey, I've passed this test. I'm qualified to work on my own.
Yeah.
When you pass that journeyman test, you know it all then? Are you just a certified badass?
No, not. Some guys think they are, definitely, but no. And I've seen some guys, some of the apprentices that I've, taught and have worked under me, that I've had some that, by their 3rd year, beginning of their 3rd year, I'm like, this guy's a badass, and I know he can he could do that job by himself plus run a crew, but with the way the licensing is, he can't, but he's has the capability. Like, he's smart, he's driven, he's picked things up and has tried and put forth the effort to gain the knowledge and has retained it and is just awesome. But then I've also had some that they're finishing their 4th year and I'm like, isn't at that same level. So every guy's kind of different.
And we've met journeymen too that have their journeyman license. They've had it for 10 years and they still don't have the skill set to be able to,
and there's that too,
to manage themselves. You got all, it takes all walks of life, right?
Yeah.
But that license is the pay to play fee. Like when the electrical inspector walks on, he wants to see your journeyman license, which is basically a liability release, right? And as a company, we can't legally have people working without that journeyman license by themselves, unassisted. You gotta have a journeyman with them. I think it's one of the best things about our trade is even after you journey out, the state says, hey, you know it all. But I mean, even after all this time, I feel like the more you know about electrical, the more you start to realize the less you know, because the industry is so vast, right?
That's why I tell the guys all the time, with the newer guys coming up and learning stuff. And, I tell them I'm still learning. I'm learning stuff all the time, whether it's something new to the industry or it's something new that Synergy's doing, like with getting involved with the solar and stuff like that. I'm trying to learn what I can about. I'm not installing it, but I'm still wanting to learn more about it so I understand it more and I may be able to offer a little bit of insight to people. But, there's always something changing to learn, which I like about it, because I feel like once I get to a point, if I'm just not learning and not progressing, I feel stuck.
Yeah.
And I don't like feeling stuck.
Right.
Well,
we have different types of journeymen too inside of our, like you can be a journeyman electrician, but a commercial electrician that's working on restaurants and high-rise buildings is completely different skill set than a residential electrician.
Yeah.
It's completely different than a production, like apartment complexes, solar, wind, generators, lighting control, offshore oil rigs, windmills.
Yeah.
Agriculture.
Ag is huge, dude.
Yep, lots of ag.
Yep.
Yeah. You think electrician's farmer's best friend when his water goes down.
Always. Yep.
Yeah.
It's a
You're
big
on
deal.
call. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just always learning every day for sure. And that's what I was experiencing. I felt times that maybe I felt like I was good and then get thrown into the new project or something. And here we go again. And what's on Pinterest today, whatever. It gets pretty broad of what we're learning about, the new fads.
He's bringing up
the new
Pinterest because
codes.
a homeowner will come in with something they've seen on Pinterest and they're like, this is what I want. So that I don't think you're just scrolling Pinterest and making your own boards, are you?
Yeah, of course not. Yeah.
Puppies and kittens.
Yep, of course. Cheeseburgers.
With bacon.
Yes.
Yeah, let's get it right.
For sure.
If you could go back and you were just starting your apprenticeship out, what advice would you give yourself?
So for me, in my apprenticeship, I was also a 5-year, so I took 1 year off, and I wish I wouldn't have done that. I like to think that I pushed myself pretty hard, but I wish I would have even pushed a little harder. Because
in what areas?
Learning every day, like pushing myself, asking more questions all the time, because what you put in through your apprenticeship is what you get out. And that is through and through throughout the
Well,
whole
and it's a
thing.
different gig now, because when we were going through it, you had to rely on another tradesman to teach you. Now you
Mhm.
have YouTube, you have chat, you have Google, you have all these resources that you can teach yourself.
Yes.
And that just wasn't available.
Yes. Like I said, I think you could always strive to do better than that. I could.
Trav, what would bearded tattoo Trav tell babyface Trav?
Probably a lot of the similar stuff. I, you know, I took off some time as well, but it was right there around like 2010 when things were really slowed down, and like, I don't know if you're gonna have work next week. So I found something else. I went and worked on wind turbines for a couple of years over in Wyoming. Enjoyed it for part of the time, and then came back, but I knew I enjoyed doing electrical. I knew I enjoyed who I worked for before I went and did that. So that's what I went back to. But I was lucky to kind of just pick up where I left off. If I wouldn't have went and did that, then I would have got my card sooner. But, it was also another good learning experience, and learned a lot of things that I wouldn't have if I wouldn't have done that, and also helped me grow as a person. But probably just the same type of stuff, just, throw myself into it a little bit more, and try to retain more and understand more and ask more questions. And, the more questions, the better I feel, like with some of our apprentices. And just like, well, why'd you screw that up? Well, I just thought it was, well, why didn't you come ask?
Right.
It's fine. Like, it's fine that you made a mistake and messed up. Like, we learn from our mistakes, but ask.
Yeah.
Because I want to help you grow and help you learn, because we're all in it together.
Yeah, and we love to help pass that knowledge on, right? That's the one thing. It's like, we don't expect people to know everything. We don't know everything.
No.
Not even close. Most of the time, if a problem comes to me, I'm like, let me look it up. I'll get back to you. Nobody expects you to know everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's, I do love the point where I'm at in my career, is being able to help and teach these guys and teach the newer, crew leads and journeymen, stuff like that, and help them with running their crews and running their jobs and being more experienced with that, and handling homeowners and handling builders and handling different situations. And, because I've been through a lot of different situations, and I feel like I have a decent amount to teach those guys. And I love that part of it. I love teaching those guys. I also love teaching, the younger apprentices, and, this is how you fold this wire in there to make that fit better, or this is how you nail up that so it lines up better. Just the little tiny things that just make their job easier, and the next person.
The difference between a homeowner and a professional, right? Is all those little tricks of the trade that make everything so much easier, so much faster, so much more efficient.
Like, we do things a certain way for a reason. That's what I enjoy trying to teach these guys, that stuff.
It's been fun at being an electrician too, to watch the industry evolve along the way too. I mean, it went from, there's so much more technology involved in what we do today than there was before. You can have computers run all the lights on your house, and speakers and security cameras and permanent lighting that changes colors when your football team wins.
Yeah,
and
just from the touch of your phone.
And solar and batteries and all of it.
Going from just your incandescence to your fluorescence to your LEDs, and when LEDs first came out and how expensive they were, and I look at it.
I think that's one thing that's super important as an electrician, especially nowadays, is just expect everything to change all the time. Just because you've always done it this way, legislation changes, technology changes, wiring practice changes, efficiency changes, tools change. As far as the tools we have nowadays are amazing. As far as
it seems like they're always coming out with something different, and
cordless and tuggers and all kinds of stuff that's you're constantly having to learn. And I think because you're constantly having to learn, it makes you better in all aspects of your life, because you're like, well, every day I got to figure out something new at work. So when you get home and something's not working, it's super awesome, because you can fix almost anything in your house to begin with. At least you know where to start. We're one of the few trades that are on the job site the whole entire duration.
We see all of it.
I don't want to beat up on roofers or sheetrockers or whatever, but if you're a roofer, you come in, you roof, you bounce, you really don't even coordinate with anybody. You know how to throw on a roof. But if something doesn't work, the plumbing doesn't work, or the heat doesn't work, or the lighting doesn't work, you're kind of stuck. Where we have to coordinate with every trade for everything, you kind of get an overall knowledge of life, like
Yeah.
especially inside of a house or a restaurant
Yeah.
or something like that. You're like, well, if it doesn't work, I either know how to fix it or I know the guy that does know how to fix
Yeah.
it. And that brings a lot of confidence as a provider for your household. At least it does for me. I get a lot of pride in being like, don't worry, I can fix it.
Yeah.
You know, I have the tools, I have the skills, I have the knowledge. It's not like, oh, well, we better call somebody and hopefully they can come out in the next month
Yeah.
because the dishwasher's not working, you know?
Yeah. No, it is cool because being able to see the house from the stage we get into it, you know, the plumbers have been in there, the HVAC guys have been in there. Sometimes we're in there together, you know, but we see how their stuff's ran and why they run stuff that way and how it all just ties together, all their stuff and our stuff. And then also going back on the final side of things and seeing it again, seeing their stuff done and the HVAC and then our stuff and just like it's all got to work together.
Yeah. You get real good at visualization because you look at
Yeah.
a set of drawings, you're like, okay, this is what it's going to look like. And you're looking at sticks and studs hanging everywhere. And you have to know what that looks like and,
Yeah.
and look out for problems and
Make it happen. Yep.
make it happen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of problem solve, figure out different ways to do things, which is one of the funner parts of the job, I think. Sometimes it makes you want to bang your head against the wall, but at the end of the day, once you figure something out, you know, problem solve and figure out a difficult situation, then you kind of stand back and be like, yeah, I'm a badass, but whatever, you know?
Yeah, you are. So we talked about what advice you give yourself. What part, I mean, we always talk about the good, right? What part of the apprenticeship did you not enjoy?
First is probably the winters outside. It's just cold.
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest thing for me.
It wasn't me.
Oh, no. Only every other Friday. No.
Why are you pointing with your eyes like that?
Yeah. I think that was the toughest thing for me. Teaches you how to be quick, though. Stay moving. You'll stay warm.
Idaho Falls is warmer than Jackson Hole.
Mhm.
Jackson Hole, we really don't end up working. I mean, we work outside some of the time, but most of the time we're inside for a lot of the winter. So I'd say even though we're at a higher, colder climate, the exposure to the cold is less than down here because you guys a lot of times are roughing the houses or the apartments and they're not conditioned.
Correct. Yep. Just going for it, wearing thermals and staying warm. So,
Lots of layers.
yep, wear layers.
How about you, Trav?
Yeah, probably the same thing. You know, well, actually, when I was younger, the cold didn't bother me as much as it does now that I'm getting old. But the heat, working out in the heat, 'cause in some of those houses, you know, when you're roughing it in, it's way hotter in the house than it is outside. And just sweating. Then you get those remodels where you're in the attic, 120 degrees. That was probably the hardest part.
It doesn't last too long, right? It kind
it
of phases
doesn't.
out of your career.
Yeah, it does, but you know, as far as like the apprenticeship, like school wasn't necessarily hard. You know, yeah, some hours, you know, some longer days, longer hours. Even then, it's hard for so long. You know, once the day's over, once the week's over, the hard things, you know, are only temporary. And
Right.
It's not something you can't get past or get over, and it's only super cold for a little, you know, a week or two, or you know, as long as you layer up. Now we actually kind of get some heaters going for the guys, and which I never had that as an apprentice.
Yeah.
My journeyman was kind of a stickler, but he was good. But you know, just put your head down, go to work, and get it done. And we'll go home.
Was your journeyman your brother?
Part of the time.
'Cause he is a stickler. That dude's
His
rough.
Beans was my journeyman most of the time.
Yeah.
He was good. Nate was good too. I guess I had a few journeymen.
Well, I think that'll probably wrap it up. Unless you guys got any closing comments you're dying to share with somebody.
Just about you.
Now, the only thing I could have to say is just in your apprenticeships, whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. It's such as
Absolutely.
with anything. You know, if you want to punch the clock, and when you get that journeyman license, you might still just be punching the clock and not leading much, you know.
That's a good thing to bring up because I really like that in the trades, you really are rewarded by the effort you put in. It's not like, oh, you're completely stopped by how long you've been here or the level of degree you have or you don't have the right last name or whatever it is. There's none of that exists. It's like if you come in and you put in the effort, you're going to get rewarded. You're going to reap what you sow. across the trades. You're not waiting for somebody to retire so you can rake and vance. That to me, that's huge.
Yeah. One, just if you're the type of person just come in and clock out and do the bare minimum, you might still go on to get your journeyman's, but you'll still be the same type of guy. You clock in, you clock out. So that's all you might ever be, is just you might not be a foreman, you might not be a crew lead, which is fine too. Not everybody needs to be a foreman or a crew lead, and just having a journeyman is good as well, but you might just be one that just clocks in, clocks out.
Yep.
And some people are okay with that. I'm not personally, but some people are, and that's okay. But
you want to reach high, you gotta
but
reach
if you
back.
want but if you want more, then you need to show that and put in the effort and prove that you want more.
Yep.
And take on more responsibility, or
and that can happen throughout the apprenticeship as well, not just when you get that license.
Yeah.
That's been our Journeyman series with Synergy Electric. And if you got any questions, go ahead and hit us up. Travis, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate your input. Nate,
of course.
You guys are absolute workhorses and studs and
Thanks
great
for having us on.
Americans.
Yeah.
Happy to rub shoulders with you.